Thank you very much for the invitation, and it's more than a pleasure to be with all of you because all we are doing is for you. And now I would like to present some research results, interesting research results that we presented here in the poster session. It's poster 94, and Ian asked me to present these results. And beside the version of the numbers and complicated stuff, I would like to just share with you what does it mean, quality of life, health-related quality of life, and what is important in APS, and why physicians like us should use the measurement of quality of life in all our patients. So, first, I'm here in front of you. My name is Stéphane Zuilly. I'm professor of vascular medicine from cardiologist and specialized in vessels. So clot, of course, is our main domain of interest. And we take care of patients with APS in France. And one main issue was the different position.
Sorry, Stéphane, do you think your slides are
So I don't have any slides.
Oh, you don't have any slides?
So that's why you can see that I have a lot of conflict of interest. So, thank you. I just wanted to spend a good time with you, just to discuss together regarding health-related quality of life. So I have no conflict of interest to declare, but you will see a lot of company, however. Thank you and sorry. So the main issue is that both patient and physician can have different opinion and point of view regarding the disease. But the disease, the patient has the disease, not the physician. And I will give you an example. For instance, young lady, lupus flare, lying on the bed, lupus nephritis, so very bad, hypertension and cutaneous involvement, and also APS with PE, difficulty to breathe, and so on. Both the doctor and the patient will feel that there is a problem. The patient will feel sick, of course, due to the symptoms, and the physician will be able to record and to analyze the situation. Low C3, low C4, anti-DNA antibodies, very high antibodies, proteinuria, like this, and symptoms, of course. But after this acute phase of the disease, the young lady is cured or better. She's seeing the same doctor, and she feels well. And when we see these young ladies, she's doing well. She can work, she can walk. Everything is, from point of view, better. No decrease of C3, C4, proteinuria disappeared, magic, and we think that everything is okay. However, from the patient perspective and point of view, she lost her job, she gained weight, and for the relationship with her girlfriends, it's no more the same, difficulties with the family, and everything impacts her quality of life. And this is the rationale of why it's so important to measure quality of life. And I'm happy to be with my colleague here because both Paul Fortin in Quebec did a study in quality of life in lupus and also in APS a couple of years ago. And the team from UK also performed a lot of two different studies for the assessment of quality of life in patients with APS. Perhaps you received questionnaires, on behalf of your patient association, perhaps a couple of years ago. But that's why I think it's important. So based on this rationale, our point of view was to record and to measure quality of life. How we did that? We used questionnaire, and it's very great because it's a questionnaire. We don't have to fill it. It's the patient alone that can fill this questionnaire. So there are many questions, very easy to understand. And these questionnaire can be in with different domains, meaning this question is related to emotions, these questions are related to mental health and psychology. These questions are related to my physical health. Can I do? Can I wait? Can I take very heavy things in my arms? And so on. And thanks to this questionnaire, you are able to record quality of life, health-related quality of life in 8 different domains: emotions, social activities, physical, mental, and so on. So these questionnaires are very useful, and they are well used everywhere in the world because these questionnaires are generic questionnaires. It means that you can use it for every different diseases. It's a generic questionnaire. You can use it for RA, for PE, pulmonary embolism, rheumatoid arthritis, antiphospholipid syndrome, or gout, everything. It's not a questionnaire devoted to APS, but it's a general questionnaire. And the utility of this questionnaire increased over time because now, in the field of other autoimmune diseases, we use the results of this questionnaire as an outcome, meaning that does my mission work or not? We will see if it works based on the result of my questionnaire. It's not only based on the decreased risk of stroke or decreased risk of lupus nephritis. We also used the result of questionnaire to know if there is an impact on health-related quality of life. So this questionnaire is very, very useful. 36 questions, 8 different domains, as I said, and we use it for different kinds of diseases. So we this questionnaire, and we already published a study on using this questionnaire a couple of years ago, and our main questions were: first, are we able to identify that the mean quality of life is decreased in comparison with French normal. Normal is difficult to define what is normal, but French general values. So we did that. It was our first question. The second question was, okay, if there is a decreased health-related quality of life, in which different domains? Do we identify a decreased quality of life in mental health, physical health, emotions, social, and so on? Third question, do we understand why this health-related quality of life is decreased? Due to stroke, MI, pulmonary embolism, type and antiphospholipid profile. Perhaps some patients have some antibodies that could increase the risk of manifestation and then increase the risk of decreased quality of life. So it was our third question. And what we found a couple of years ago, we found that first, when we compare our APS population to the general population, yes, it was decreased, not during all ages, especially it depended on the sex, but it was between 18 until 50, or a little bit shifts, like 25 to 60. So we identified that first. Second, we were able to find that some patients were associated with a decreased quality of life, especially mental health, and what impaired mental health, it was stroke. And it was quite relevant because when you have stroke, I will always remember of a patient. He had stroke, 25-year-old, and it was at 5 in the morning. He woke up and then everything was wrong. And he was explaining to me, okay, look, since my stroke, I'm waking up every morning at 5 just to test if my hand is working. So imagine, no, don't imagine because you are the patient, so you can feel what I'm saying, but the impact in terms of psychological impairment of an event related to APS. So it was quite relevant, but it was not enough because we were not able to understand everything in terms of quality of life analysis. So we performed a second study. This is the study we are presenting here, and thank you to all organizers to have accepted our poster. Poster number 94, if you want to come by. And we try to find which variables were significantly associated with impairment of quality of life, and we found that also DVT and PE, pulmonary embolism, it's obvious. It has been already showed outside of the field of APS, because when you have PE, you can, it's not also mandatory, but you can have some damage in terms of pulmonary or dyspnea and so on. So it can be associated with some impairment. That's why we were able to record this impairment of life. And we also identified that patient with some antibodies, and we know that in the field of APS, some antibodies are associated with more clinical complications than others. But we know that, and it was relevant because it was linked to the clinically relevant, what we call antiphospholipid profile in terms of laboratory results. So here are our results. And for patient perspective and for you, my point of view would be to use it as another endpoint in clinical studies, besides arterial thrombosis, and proteinuria, and preeclampsia, and so on, but to add it in our clinical study, to know and to record your point of view, which is so important. And second, it would be so great if we could create in the future not a generic quality of life questionnaire for every different diseases, but a specific APS questionnaire devoted to quality of life with specific questions which are really related to the syndrome. Thank you very much.
We have time for one or two questions. Maybe I just have one comment that in Canada, in many of the diseases that we're following, even to get approval for certain drugs, we need to have a quality of life perspective on the application form, because that impact is important. And some of the rheumatoid arthritis trials usually have one of the functional assessment, which is a self-reported outcome in a composite outcome. So maybe this is something to work up in our future trials as an outcome to include that. So if there's no questions, maybe we will. Oh, one question here.
I'm sorry, it's probably not a question to you. It's probably a question to somebody who works in England. When I suffered my incident, which was a clot in my artery, what I found when I came out of hospital was there was absolutely no backup at all. There was no quality of life research, no questionnaires. And when I asked, how do I start walking again? I was told, you don't actually come into any of the categories we have. If you'd had a heart attack or if you'd had a stroke, we might be able to do something. And still I asked the question. Although I had a brilliant trainer, my husband, I still ask, I asked my vascular physician, is there a physio who's able to help me with this specific issue? Because I can't walk. The pain is too great. I'm now able to walk, I'm able to cycle, I'm able to do a lot of things. But there are lots of people who don't have my determination and aren't married to my husband. And how do we change the system so that these things are acknowledged and so that our afterlife, after we've been through the incident, how do we change it so our lives turn to what we can class as normal? Exercise, bicycling, swimming, walking. Sorry, I'm nervous. Does anybody have the answer?
It might be the panel discussion later, I think.
It may be related to some of the slides I used at the end in opening up the discussion, in a panel discussion. And I think we're a community here. We're a community of people with the same goal, although we come from very different tracks. And I think that's the key, is to come up with mutual organizations. But in rare diseases, the problem is the funding is not there. The public funding or the private funding is not. So that will be the challenge. But maybe we can bring it up at the panel discussion.
Thank you all.